buried alive for ransom. At the time, Barbara was living a luxurious life that many young women would envy. As an heiress, she indulged in her every desire, attending a prestigious university, traveling the world, buying expensive clothing and jewelry, and planning her upcoming wedding. However, in 1968, Barbara's life was forever changed when she was kidnapped and buried alive for nearly 4 days. The shocking incident took place when she was just 20 years old. Despite her privileged upbringing, Barbara found herself trapped in a small box underground, fighting for her survival. Due to the overcrowding of the student hospital, Barbara and her mother Jane sought refuge at the Roadway Inn in Decatur, which was conveniently located near the university. Jane had intended to care for her daughter until she was well enough to return to school. However, in the early hours of December 17, 1968, their peaceful stay was abruptly interrupted by 2 men who posed as local police officers. The intruders claimed that Barbara's boyfriend had been in a car accident and requested to speak with her. When they gained entry into the room, they subdued Jane with chloroform and tied her up. Despite being restrained, Jane managed to escape and alert the motel staff, who then called the police. Robert, who had influential connections, was quickly notified of the situation and enlisted the help of former FBI Director John Edgar Hoover to oversee the investigation. While Barbara's family and law enforcement officials were actively searching for her, her kidnappers, Gary Stephen Christ and Ruth Eisman Shire, had taken her to a secluded area in Berkeley Lake, located 30 kilometers away from Atlanta in Gwinnett County. They had already prepared a wooden box measuring 2 by 1 by 1 meter, lined with fiberglass cloth and buried it in a hole in the ground. The box was outfitted with an air pump, a battery-powered lamp, and provisions of water and sedatives. 2 plastic tubes were installed to supply fresh air to the confined prisoner. In an eerie moment captured in a photo before her burial, Barbara can be seen holding a sign that reads, "Kidnapped." Despite the gravity of the situation, she chose to smile for the camera, hoping that her loved ones would remember her as strong and resilient. This image has since been widely circulated and serves as a haunting reminder of her harrowing experience. After photographing Barbara with the sign, the kidnappers sealed her in the box and buried her about a meter underground. They then sent a ransom note demanding $500,000 in $20 bills from the Muckle family, with instructions to place an ad in a local newspaper if they agreed to the terms. The family complied with the demands, but the first money transfer failed due to a suspicious neighbor who alerted the police. The kidnappers fled the scene without taking the ransom money. Meanwhile, investigators were able to obtain the license plate number of the kidnapper's car, which was registered under the name of Gary Christ. The Muckle family then placed another ad in the newspaper, and soon after, the kidnappers made contact again. Another ransom payment was arranged, and the kidnappers promised to reveal Barbara's location once they received the money. This time, the exchange was successful. On December 20, 1968, Gary Christ called FBI headquarters and provided the location where Barbara was buried. She was quickly rescued and freed from the wooden box where she had spent over 3 days breathing through tubes. Remarkably, Barbara only suffered from dehydration and slight weight loss and was otherwise unharmed. After the kidnapping, Gary fled to South Florida and attempted to evade law enforcement by purchasing a boat and sailing west into the Gulf of Mexico. However, the owner of the boat became suspicious after being paid in $20 bills and alerted the authorities. Nearly 200 police officers, including a helicopter, launched a manhunt for Gary. He eventually swam to Hog Island, where he was arrested on March 5, 1969. Gary was sentenced to life imprisonment later that year. Despite several appeals, Gary was released from prison on May 14, 1979. He went on to graduate from medical school and worked as a general practitioner in Christney, Indiana. However, in March 2006, Gary was arrested again after police discovered a clandestine drug lab in his home. He was sentenced to 5 years in prison in January 2007 and eventually granted parole in 2010. Ruth Eisman Shire became the first woman to be included in the FBI's list of 10 most wanted persons following Barbara Muckle's kidnapping. She was captured 79 days later on March 5, 1969, and pleaded guilty to her involvement in the crime, resulting in a 7-year prison sentence. She served 4 years before being deported to her homeland of Honduras. Barbara Muckle later wrote a book about her ordeal titled 83 Hours to Dawn, which was published in 1971. In 1990, a movie adaptation of the book was released under the same title. Gary Christ also authored a book titled Life: The Man Who Kidnapped Barbara Muckle, published in 1972. Share your opinion on this story and do not forget to like the video if you like it. Thank you for watching.